up with demand. I moved out of my aunt's place, moved into the house where I'm living now, and had my own studio, converted the sitting room to a gallery, the big bedroom to a painting studio, and it became very beautiful. I mean, I started having so much fun creating what I wanted. I then moved into painting the human form, nudes actually, and that became another obsession. But then I told you that there was a connection between my reading law and an understanding of intellectual property. And I realized that, each work you make is imbued with some legal real estate, as you would say, values legally, which is called copyright, the right to make copies of it. So by law, even though you have sold the physical painting, to an individual, the copyright is still retained by you, which is amazing. So he has the physical work, but he does not have the right to make copies of it and exploit the, economic gains of making copies. So I thought to myself, but how will you exercise your copyright if you don't have a copy yourself? If you have sold a painting to a client, he has physical possession of it. That is his right, because you've sold the physical work to him. And he may decide to deny you access to it. It is within his right. So if you did not make a good copy of it, then how will you exercise your copyright? So that was when I discovered that high-end, high-resolution photography was a must for each of my works. So I would find that I started shooting medium format, then it was film, and then so I have an archive of every single painting I've ever made. So that was how photography started coming into my world. So I started to learn how to make high-end copies of these works. At the same time, I started taking photographs as reference materials for my paintings, especially when I started studying the human form. And gradually, people started liking the photographs I had taken as references for my paintings. And then I started getting invited to, I got invited to an exhibition in Mali. It was in 2000. Somebody was going to do, there's this biennale that happens in Mali where African photography, the best in African photography come to exhibit their work in Mali. And I got invited to represent Nigeria alongside about 11 Nigerian photographers. There was this German photographer, Nigerian born, Bode Akimbi. He came to Nigeria. He was curating that exhibition. And he called me. He said he liked my work. Somebody told him I had a collection. And I said, wow, I'm not even a photographer yet. And I'm getting invited among top creative photographers. And there were a lot of young photographers there too. People like T.Y. Bello, Uche James Hiroha. Paul Jekere was exhibiting, but his son, Amaise Jekere, was representing him. And that was when my eye got open to the world of photography. In those days, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, and I saw all these photographers from around the world, and I was looking at their work, fine art photography, creative work. And there and then, myself, Uche, T.Y. Bello, and Amaise Ojekere, we decided that we're going to form a group called Depth of Field to encourage ourselves to keep creating because, nobody was appreciating that kind of work. The only photography people wanted was to make portraits or cover events and, things like that. So I started looking at photography more seriously. I was like, And then people started calling me, advertising agencies, to say, we would like to commission you to shoot an ad campaign. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So gradually my photography started picking up. While I was still a painter, but I then had caught the photography bug, So shoot, go to the dark room, develop, print, it was like that. And gradually my career as a photographer started taking off. started shooting ad campaigns, started shooting portraits. But then Depth of Field was on fire as a group. We had become quite famous on the international photography circuit, you know? So curators will fly to Nigeria to curate our work. And then before we knew it, we were exhibiting all over the world. We went to France, we went to New York. I had an exhibition at South London Gallery. Had 2 exhibitions in Germany. They flew us to Brussels, you know. So it was like wonderful. I don't know if you understand. Photography was taking me all over the world, and we were getting published, curators. But, you know, it's not easy to have creatives come together. It's a very difficult thing to do, but so people are fascinated with us and our, you know, projects. Through my travels with Depth of Field, I came to realize that all these curators that were coming to look through our work and decide what we're going to exhibit seem to gravitate towards the more gritty photographs. They seem to look more to photographs that depicted hardship and their own perception of what Africa ought to be. You know, a little bit of grit, you know, cracked walls, anything that is gritty. A photograph of traffic, you know, with molars and, you know, those exotic African perceptions. And one day I woke up and I said, who are these people and why are they so interested in these photographs? And I started to question, I said, who are their own photographers and what are they shooting? Their most valued photographers. Okay, who are the most highly paid photographers in Europe and America? And what are they shooting? So names like Annie Leibovitz, Herb Ritts, you know, Mapplethorpe, Mario Testino, Nick Knight, they started coming to me, you understand? I start to look at what they're shooting. They're all shooting for Vogue, you know, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stones, these magazines. They're shooting editorials, you know? I was like, And I look at those editorials and I'm like, they're shooting fantasies, not reality. They're shooting dreams. They're shooting alternate existence that could be. So when you take Beyonce, okay, and you bring a team of hairstylists, stylists, makeup, skin, another team of retouchers, with a creative team that actually tries to tell a story, and then you put her in a certain scenario and you shoot. That is not reality. It's a lie. It's a dream that is presented to the world of what could be or what should be. It appeals to people's ability to dream. And I saw that that was lacking in our place. I saw that. In those days, when the Nollywood artist is being put on the cover of a magazine, they just went to their album and picked one picture. Or they went to a roadside studio and just took a picture there and just put. I looked at it. I looked at the picture of Madonna. I looked at the picture of, you know, I said, so I start to see a conspiracy inside my head. I said, they're paying big money to their photographers to shoot dreams and fantasies and portray them in the best light, while they give NGO and charity money to our photographers to show the worst of us. So I just decided that I was going to stop going for all those exhibitions. I was going to come back, settle in Nigeria, and only shoot the best of the best of this continent. So I decided that the purpose of my skill and the purpose of my photography was to liberate the Black man. Because perception is reality. And our major problem is years and years and centuries, actually, of abuse, of misguided perception, foisted on us through the power of gunpowder. Then I started to shoot super entrepreneurs, you know. I want to shoot, you know, the big oil moguls, these people who have made money and who are showing that we are not just beggars in this continent. And I decided also to shoot landscapes. I decided to shoot architecture, you know. I mean, I started to see that, oh my goodness, you know, I started to shoot Lagos, like Lagos Island. And it starts to look like Manhattan. I remember the first time I traveled to New York, you know, I was in the middle of, you know, like Times Square, and I could swear I was looking at pure water sachet on the road, man. I was like, this place is just as dirty as CMS. Area boys everywhere, beggars. I said, what is going on? But when I Googled the place, I'm seeing the best photographs. I said, perception. But then the people that live in Manhattan, they believe in the place. When I call them, I say, but this place doesn't look so cool. They say, Kelechi, relax. You see that building down there? That's Bill Gates' office. If you go further down, you see that's Google office. Inside that place, they're making more money than the whole of Africa. I said, okay. Now I can feel the narrative from the people that give significance to this great place. But then it is true perception. And I say, being a photographer makes you a priest at the altar of first impressions. And if our people do keep showing pictures of charity and we keep sending out poverty porn to the rest of the world, they will never take us serious. There will be no evidence of genius that we are. And I have nothing against shooting that. It is also a different reality, but it is not the only reality. Because, I mean, I listened to Chimamanda talk about being confined to one story. No people are confined to one story. They are the ups and downs. So why do they only play up and downs? And you see well-educated Africans telling you there's something wrong with the black man. Ridiculous. Our perception of who we are has been skewed through imagery, negative imagery. And so that is what pushes me, and that is what motivates me, and that is what created this other Kelechi Amadiobi that is shooting all these people you are talking about. It's a story of triumph, a story of defiance, and a story of progress for the continent. But I never had a 9 to 5, you know. Well, I did go to a law firm during my youth corps and spent about 2 weeks before I said, okay, that's it, you know. I wouldn't call that having worked, but I really wanted to know what I was missing. And the truth is that art is an interesting thing. You're required to be a free bird. You cannot be caged. You need to be impetuous to discover new things. And, you know, the 9 to 5 becomes a cage, you know, for people like me. But we also take risks. I mean, what if nobody likes what you create? You know? So I believe it is in my nature. It is the path I have chosen. Never go back on that. My name is Kelechi Amadiobi. I'm a photographer. I like to call myself a storyteller. These days I'm making films. It's a dream, it's an obsession with liberating the mind of our brothers and sisters in Africa and beyond. It makes me happy, provided me with enough money to take care of my needs. It's not your regular 9 to 5, it's my life.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa.
State government has approved a bill for the establishment of State Security Network Agency, Amotekun.
We have the highest number of extremely poor people in the world.
He's not concerned about lecturers that are raping students that are under their care. He's concerned about them being stigmatized.
And I can tell you that he will get the result in full measure. He cannot avoid responsibility.
Why the focus on Africa at this point?
The news only cover, one side of Africa, so we always